Hey guys, Yips here, coming in the video, and today I'm going to talk about how you should be prepping your Warlock for the Battle for Azeroth launch. Okay, so obviously Battle for Azeroth is coming out in about 2 months from now. There's a little bit of downtime in World of Warcraft right now, not a whole lot's going on between, the end of the raid tier and a new expansion. There's always that huge gap where it's just kind of like, there's really no reason to progress my character, and there's really no reason to, log in aside from raid anymore. So there's not really a whole lot going on right now, but there are some things that you can be doing to prep your Warlock for the launch, and I want to talk about what those are as well as what you should be expecting when the launch comes out. So I'm going to take you guys down 2 different paths here for BFA launch. One of them is going to be speccing as Affliction, and one of them is going to be speccing as Destruction. I do not recommend you guys play Demonology as soon as the expansion releases, unless you're like super excited about the new Demonology and you just want to experience it. It's not going to be efficient in terms of leveling, in terms of gearing, in terms of all that sort of stuff. You're definitely going to have more success as Affliction or as Destro, but that being said, Demonology is not like a terrible choice. It's not going to hinder you that much, but if you want to be maximum efficient before the expansion launch, make sure you have your Destro and Affliction sets ready to go. So what I'm going to recommend to you guys is at the start of BFA launch, if you're a very geared Warlock, play Affliction. If you're not a very good Warlock, play Destruction, okay? I'm going to go over the reasons of why this is, and also why, being better geared Affliction more benefits you, and why being less geared Destro affects you more, okay? So, let's talk about Affliction. So Affliction leveling is going to be very, very simple. You're just basically going to be running around, spamming dots on mobs, tagging them as fast as you can, and letting your dots rot down creatures. So you've probably done this before when you're leveling. You just, you go into a zone, there's 10 mobs, you run around, you tab dot them all, and they all get grouped up, and you can spam Seed of Corruption or whatever, and they'll die, okay? The reason being more geared benefits this sort of a playstyle is the more geared you are, the harder your dots hit. And since your dots are the only output of your significant damage, it's not like Affliction has this crazy bursty thing that just destroys a monster, right? It's all damage over time. As a Destro, right, if you're less geared, you can just cast a Chaos Bolt, and if it overkills it by 5,000, that's 5,000 points of damage you didn't need, all right? So as Affliction, you're going to be wanting to spec into Absolute Corruption and sow the seeds. The other talents aren't going to matter too much as to what you run, but anyways, the generalization idea is you're going to be using Sacrolash, Dark Strike, and most likely Pride as. Now, I'm not sure if we'll be able to use 2 legendaries or just 1, but if it's just 1 up until, whatever level, make sure you're using Sacrolash, just because of that slow is going to be exceptionally powerful. And all you're going to do is you're going to run around to creatures like this, you're going to be casting Absolute Corruption on them, putting your Agony on them, and then once they all get grouped up, or if they haven't already died from your dots, you're just going to cast a Seed of Corruption or 2 into them, and they'll all die. So this is kind of like a mass grouping kill effect, where you're just, you're aggroing as much as you can, and you're just slowly whittling it down. It's a very, very efficient way to level, especially if you're quite geared. Now, if you're not as geared as, a lot of players, so if you're not like 970 plus, you're probably going to benefit a little bit more from being Destruction. Now, the reason being, like I said earlier, is if a mob only has 10,000 HP, and your Chaos Bolt hits for 10,000 at 960, if you're 980, well, your Chaos Bolt's going to hit for like 15k, but either way, you're still going to one-shot the mob, right? So it doesn't matter. So that's why being less geared matters less for Destro in terms of a leveling process, where mob's HP is quite low. So what you're going to want to do when you're leveling is you're going to have Havoc on a very short cooldown on the expansion release, and all you're going to want to do is Havoc whatever other creature you want to kill, cast Immolate on the non-Havoc creature that you want to kill, can flag a couple times, and then cast 1 Chaos Bolt, and by then, regardless of your gear, the 2 mobs should be dead, and then you can move on and repeat the process on the next creature, okay? So it's just going to be like Havoc, double Immolate, can flag, Chaos Bolt, dead, move on with your life, all good, okay? Very, very easy to play, very, very nice leveling spec. The damage output is insane, so you'll just be blasting through creatures with Chaos Bolts just because of how hard they hit, and I have to say it's actually exceptionally rewarding going in and just like double conflagging Chaos Bolt, and like 2 things are just dead on your screen instantly. It's really, really fun. Anyways, so less geared, play Destro, more geared, play Affliction. It's also worth noting that Affliction probably requires a little bit more attention just because you're going to have to be running around and maintaining dots on a bunch of things. Now, in terms of legendary usage for Destro, I kind of talked about Affliction where you want to use Sacrolash. As the Destruction Warlock, you're going to be using probably Pride as, and either Sephu's or this Pyrogenics ring, depending on how much you're rain of firing, but definitely Pride as. Having that Absorb Shield is going to be huge for your survivability. It's not like an Affliction lock where you have this exceptionally powerful Drain Soul, where you still have your dots ticking, doing a lot of damage, and you can heal off of it. It's not like that. If you Drain Soul as a Destro lock, your damage output goes down to like 0. So you don't have like the crazy sustain affliction has, but that Pride Eye Shield will greatly benefit you on your lock in terms of your survivability, which will be awesome for leveling. Now, in terms of regular gear, so we covered legendary, we covered spec choice, what sort of things you want to be doing in that regard. Now I want to talk about your regular old-fashioned gear, okay? So obviously right now, every Warlock in the game is using set bonuses, right? You've done, Taurus the Burning Throne, you've gotten your 4 set, it feels really good, it's super powerful, but you have to keep in mind, this 4 set bonus is really powerful on bosses, right? On long-living mobs. When we're going into the world and leveling, these creatures are not going to be living a long time, okay? So tier bonuses aren't really going to benefit you all that much, especially when you just started out leveling. So, like Chaos Bolt increasing the critical strike chance of your Incinerate on the target is not going to increase your leveling speed. What's going to increase your leveling speed is having that Chaos Bolt have a better chance of one-banging the target. So that's why you're going to be wanting to save high item level gear for the expansion release. So obviously gear is getting scaled down, but a 980 piece will be higher than a 960 piece. So any sort of high item level gear that you have saved up in the bank, make sure you're keeping it and not just disenchanting it because it takes up a tier slot. Make sure you keep it, and whenever the expansion releases and you say you have a better piece, so for example right now I'm using these tier legs, but I have this 980, I'll be switching to this piece when the expansion releases in order to level more quickly because I'll have a higher damage output. Now obviously when mobs are living longer, you'll actually start to reap the benefits from your set bonuses, but initially for leveling, definitely going to be wanting to pick high item level pieces, so keep that in mind for when the expansion comes out. Now the last thing I want to touch on with gear is trinkets and artifact weapon. So obviously trinkets, stat sticks are going to be the best. I don't really recommend these int proc trinkets just because a lot of the time in leveling you'll have downtime moving between monsters, and if you're proc trinket procs, you're going to be losing a crap ton of value. So definitely any sort of stat sticks that you have are going to be the most powerful. Damage modifiers like Prototype is okay as well, but for the most part you're going to be wanting to use stat stick legendaries. Like a crit is a perfect example of this. Yeah, and then artifact weapons. So your artifact weapon is going to lose all of its traits on the BFA launch, but you're going to, I believe, keep the weapon. So what that means is the higher item level relics you have in your weapon, the higher eye level your weapon will be when the expansion releases. Now I think this is how it's going to work. I'm pretty sure they're not just going to scale all artifacts weapons down to the same item level. I'm pretty sure it's going to be based off the current eye level of your weapon. So say your weapon is like, 110 item level or something, obscene like that. Having that crazy high item level weapon is going to benefit you the most, okay? So just keep that in mind when you're going through the game, and if you get like a super high item level relic, even if it doesn't have the right traits, maybe just put it in the bank, and then when the expansion comes out you can put that into the gear and get a higher item level weapon, okay? So that's how you're going to want to deal with gearing. That's how you're going to want to deal with what sort of spec you want to play, how you're going to want to play it when you're leveling. Some last final touching notes. You're going to want to have quite a bit of gold when the expansion does release. I recommend anything over 500,000 will be fine. That's 2 WoW tokens of gold. Ways you can earn that is just, sell heroic and tourists, sell Mythic Plus carries, grind farming materials. Keep in mind that price levels are going to change at the start of an expansion release, so certain items will be worth more. Keep that in mind if you're a mercher. So yeah, basically just keep it in mind. Destro's probably going to be the go-to leveling spec for most people. Affliction is going to be more of a niche one. Demonology, not that powerful. Having your pets and stuff, just trying to transfer them between monsters. Your consistent sustained damage, like without ramping, is not exceptionally high, so Affliction and Destro are just going to benefit you more in the long term of getting from 110 to 120. So that's how you're going to want to prepare your Warlock for the Battle for Azeroth launch. Hopefully this gives you some ideas to think about. Let me know in the comments if you guys have any other things you want to add, kind of like as any other tips for people watching this video of what they should be doing before the expansion releases. Anyways, thanks for hanging out. Hopefully I can come up with some more content when the expansion releases. There will be lots of lock stuff going on. I will be maining Warlock in the expansion, so you guys can keep a lookout for that. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you guys later. Have a good one.